Welcome to Launch One with Mason Springer. I'm Mason Springer, and today we're joined by Rendyn Brooks. Rendyn is a professional archer and quite the archer at that. I'd say one of her most notable recent wins was the ASA Classic here this past week in Cullman, Alabama. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But Rendyn, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great conversation. I actually saw your post the other day about bow hunter game setup, and that's something I'd like to hit
Yes.
on today, and how to get a short bow to shoot like a target bow. And That's going to be big. But first, tell me about your win at Coleman. I mean, that's huge.
That was amazing. That is one that I have been chasing. This is my third year. Just finished up my third year in the shooting in the pro class at ASAs, and I've wanted that one for a long time. I've been in the position a few times before, but just never quite had the lineup that I needed to get it done. And there's been a lot of preparation that's gone into that, and it was one of those weekends where just everything stacked up just how you wanted it. The little things all came together.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's how we like them to go. So, what's your typical training day look like when you're shooting, practicing for a tournament like that?
So for 3D tournaments, I kind of alternate between two things. Number one, I have a not a full range. I have about 8 3D targets at the house. I shoot a lot of arrows at 3D, and I do a lot of aiming at 3D. So I just draw back, holding drill, aiming drill, whatever you want to call it. Aim at the targets, look at the targets, try and understand a lot of what I can see, when I can see it, what opportunities I'll have on the course. And then I also do a lot of whenever I'm working on shot process, execution, all that stuff. I shoot at squares of electrical tape on cardboard. So if anybody's seen Michael Braden, that's my coach. This is one of his things. We put up just little bitty squares of electrical tape at whatever distance it'd be. If you're shooting indoors, 20. If you're shooting outside, 40, 50 is great. But it's really good training for 3D on picking out a spot. So it's a little bit different from indoors. So indoors, you're looking at a Vegas face, a 5 spot, whatever it is. Your brain naturally wants to look at the center of a circle, and it lines that up really easily. Whenever you're shooting at the little electrical tape dots, you really have to work to keep your pin in the middle of that. So it's really good training for 3D. So I kind of alternate between that and targets.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that way of thinking. I think I've heard a lot of people say that when they're training for deer season, shooting spots might not be the best thing because there's not
Hmm.
deer with spots walking around on them. You're
No,
just kind of picking a point
exactly.
like that. But yes,
And it's
that's
just, you got to get your brain used to seeing what you're going to see. It's a completely different way your eye has to focus on that target.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So one thing I noticed about your setup that's different than a lot of people's is V bars.
I love
That's
my V bars.
Yeah. What do you like about them? Have you tried a single offset bar?
I have, and I am shooting a single offset bar on my bow for bow hunter games, but I've shot V bars on my target bow since I was 10 or 11. So it's been a long time of consistently using it. And the biggest thing for me is that lateral stability. So I'm holding the bow, got two V bars on it. It's not going to want to wobble side to side on you. It's super stable up and down. And I like a lot of back weight on my bow. So I've got right now on my target bow about 50 ounces of weight total and 8 ounces on the front.
Yeah.
So I like a
Wow.
really heavy back weight. If you've watched me shoot, a lot of people comment on it. I fire, my bow leans back, cam about hits me in the face, almost like the really exaggerated recurve follow through. But I love the back weight. And with V bars, for me, it's really helps with aiming. I'm a big person on I want the aim to look really, really good. And the way I was taught is your stabilizers and your aiming system, whatever, all that, has two main purposes. And number one, keep pin in the X. Number two, keep it as steady as possible. So for keeping pin in the X, for me, V bars give the bow a lot of lift. I want to point that bow upwards. Because usually when you're going throughout the shot, as you're pushing and pulling, executing the shot, naturally you're going to get tired, bow arm's going to sag to the front. V bars give you a lot, V bars and the ability to have more back weight gives you a lot more lift as well as the stability, so you're going to have a steadier aim.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know on my old PSE, I ran a ton of weight in the back. Like I would be probably 4 ounces in the front and then like 18, 20 in the back. And it kind of did exactly what you're saying, just kicked way back when you shot. And for that bow, it worked really well. But yeah, that's really interesting. So you said that you were running a single offset on your bow hunter setup. What's the reason behind that?
That's what the rules allow. Gotta have one front bar max 18 inches, one back bar max 15 inches. So just
Okay,
working
I
within
didn't.
the rules there. But I do have it
Yeah.
kicked all the way in, as close in as I can get it, and as much back weight as I have on there. I think I've got the ratio's about 1 to 3. I've got about a third of as much weight on the front as I do on the back. I think I have, I think about 12 on the front, so whatever that'd be on the back, like about 30 on the back.
Yeah. Okay. So how's that bow shoot compared to your target bow? Like what do you notice in the aim? I know you see you like the aim. Like what do you see in there?
So my target bow, I shoot a Matthews Title 36, and then for the bow hunter game setup, I set up an Arc 30, and those two bows feel very similar at full draw, in my opinion. A lot you notice a little bit the obviously very steeper string angle from a 30-inch axle to axle to a 36. But as far as the way the back wall feels, the way the bow wants to settle into the shot, those two are very, very similar in my opinion. The biggest difference is I had to do a lot of work on stabilizers on the bow hunter game setup to get it to feel and aim a little bit closer to my target bow. And I think the other thing that helps a lot with that is the arc has a pretty high holding weight. I don't honestly remember what percentage let off I have on there, but it's a pretty heavy holding weight. It's very similar, probably heavier holding weight than my title. But those similarities help me out a lot there, and just adding as much mass weight as I can on the stabilizers to get that little bit steadier aim.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I kind of I've been shooting a pretty heavy setup on my target bow recently, and I really like that in this target bow that I'm shooting. But then when I went to set up my bow hunter game setup, I tried putting all that weight on there, and that bow was just not taking it. Like I took off all the stabilizers on my bow hunter games bow, and it ended up holding better than it did with all the weight that I had on there. Do you?
Really?
Yeah, which is kind of opposite of what a lot of people would think. But I mean, do you have any experience? Like, has that ever happened to you? And I mean, how does the weight help? I guess.
For me, weight helps a lot because I am really pulling through the shot. So I am not static at all through the shot. I am driving elbows straight back, pushing straight through the target constantly whenever I'm at full draw. If I don't have any weight on the bow, that bow will wobble back and forth a lot with no mass weight on it. I have to have a lot of mass weight on a bow. If you're somebody who's a little bit more static in the shot and you can get comfortable, give it some time to let it settle and kind of sit there, maybe build a little bit, maybe stay static, then I could see the mass weight not helping as much on a bow hunter setup. But I've never drawn back a bow with no mass weight on it and felt comfortable at all with the aim. I'll say that. I need to add some stuff there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I know, like, I went to Vegas one year and shot like all the flagship target bows, and of course, you're shooting them with no stabilizers at 2 yards from the target. But I was just kind of see like what draw cycle I like the best, and which one shook the least in my hand, like you're talking about.
Yes,
And they definitely can shake a ton when you don't have any weight on them. But yeah,
absolutely. And
that's
it's just a lot of that's really dependent on shot style. I tell people all the time who ask me like, "Why is your setup so weird?" Because most people who shoot a very different shot style than me, everything on my bow looks wrong as far as stabilizers and how I pull through the shot. But finding something that suits you and finding a way to maximize your setup for your particular shot style is probably one of the hardest things in archery. So takes everybody a long time to get that worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think making the bow work for you is a lot better than changing yourself for the bow.
Yes.
I think that's a big thing. So for bow hunter games, this is a 3D shoot, 4 score if you're shooting in the money class. And what's the distance on it? What's the max yardage there?
max 80 yards. So it's 30 yards further than we see in typical ASA class. Typical ASA Pro class is max 50 yards, stretching these all the way out to 80. And this is not official. This is some information that I've gathered and things that I'm inferring. On a typical ASA range, all of the 12s and 10s are the same size on every Delta McKenzie target. ASA has stated that we will be shooting Delta McKenzie targets through all the ranges at Bowhunter games. And they at the Classic, they had a few on display that were the bigger body target. They had don't remember if it was a moose or an elk, one of the big bodied ones, and then a few of the smaller, kind of funkier shaped targets. And they also stayed true to that same 10 and 12 size. So I think that no matter the distance, all the way out to 80, we're going to have the same size 10 and 12, which is really going to be interesting when we stretch out to those further ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know if you've practiced this at all, but what's your mindset going into a 80-yard shot where the 12 ring is the same size as it would be if it's a 30-yard shot?
For me, so I have been doing a lot of long distance practice recently on 3D targets, especially pushing 60, 80, 70 out there. With a bow hunter setup, it is so much more sensitive to mistakes than my target bow. And that's just the nature of a bow hunter setup. It doesn't matter what bow you put that equipment on. I think that looking at that, it's going to be a bigger game of trying to minimize mistakes when we're on the course. Those longer shots, I'd say probably past 65, I'm not going to be gunning for 12s. I'm going to be, where's the center of the 10? If I drop a little low, which is my typical mistake, most people's typical mistake is drop a little low at the bottom, maybe I'll hang one. But for the most part, looking to minimize mistakes. Don't want any 5s on my scorecard. I'd like to keep even numbers.
Yeah.
Try and minimize 8s as much as possible. I think that's going to be the defining line between, and knowing the strategy and knowing your limits of where you need to draw the line, and playing, obviously I have to play it target by target, but knowing when you need to be aggressive, when you need to play it a little safer is going to be the defining line in that class of who makes a shootout and who doesn't.
Yeah, that makes sense. So one thing I've done in the past is I'll go to, say 45 yards, and I'll shoot some groups. And if my group is averaging, 2.5 inches at 45 yards, then I know that on a 45-yard ASA target, I need to be aiming at like the top of the lower 12, and that way my group is always going to be at least within the 10 ring, and half that group's going to be in the 12, if that makes any sense.
It does. That's actually really similar to what I do. So, and I started this a long time ago when I was younger, but I still do it on a lot of shots. Anybody who's shot with me on an ASA range has heard me say this, but I like to aim connector. So that's where the IBO and the 12 intersect, whether you're aiming it up or lower. But that little point right there, if I'm somewhere where I know, like you said, my group's about 2 inches wide, well, half that group's in the 12, half that's in the 10, and none of it's in the 8. So trying to minimize those mistakes. So connector is where I live on most shots that are 45 plus. There are a lot of shots on the pro course where I have good eyes. I can see really well. If it's if it's a deer with some light on it, lit up pretty good, I'll be able to see a 12 at 48 yards. And I can usually gun for that. If I have something that I can aim at and really, really solid on it, have confidence in the shot, I can gun for a 12 at those further shots. But a lot of the times, again, minimizing mistakes, minimizing your chance of an 8. I really like to live in connector. I've done that for years.
Yeah, connector. I've not heard that, but yeah, that's a good way to do it. I like it.
Yeah.
So
Guarantee a 10, give yourself a little chance at a 12.
Yeah, perfect. So going to bow hunter games, having a good rangefinder is going to be important. I'd say like one that gets down to the half yards or 10th yards. I know I've always kind of I've played with a couple different rangefinders, and I've got one that I kind of like. But what's your thoughts on that?
I shoot the Vortex Razor HD, I believe 3500. I love that rangefinder. I've had it for several years, and I'll always recommend Vortex products to people. They're good quality, and because of the warranty, fun fact, they're the only optics brand that lifetime guarantees the electronics as well as the glass. So I've had that rangefinder for about 6 years now. I'm not going to have to buy a rangefinder for the foreseeable future. You know, if I ever have a problem with that one, send it back. They'll send me a new one. But it is also accurate. And what I really love about that rangefinder is whenever it first came out, it was pretty much the only one on the market that I could find. I'm not saying there isn't one, but the only one that I could find that would range dark targets and light targets the same. So I don't know if you were around ASA whenever we had the tapir target, the black and white anteater thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most people's rangefinders, whenever we were on a course, they would click the white side and the black side of that target and get a yard apart, two different ranges, and didn't know which one was right. I loved being the one in the group and to tell people, oh yeah, it's this range, because my rangefinder would range both sides of those targets the same. So that's a big reason why I stuck with it. And I've heard other people having problems with rangefinders, not picking up dark targets, and I've shot rangefinders in the past that haven't. But I have a feeling that in Tennessee for the Bowhunter games, we're going to have some targets in some dark holes. We're going to have some targets exaggerated uphill, extreme downhill. So it's, yes, a good rangefinder is absolutely going to play a part. You need one that is going to pick up on the dark targets and that you trust. If you're shooting it in bow mode, you trust the cuts on it. And definitely one down to a tenth of a yard. Because I believe everybody will be running slider sights for Bowhunter games. I don't think there will be anybody with a multi-pin sight at all. So we're all going to be dialing to exact yardages.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I like what you said about the dark and the light. I know when I'm out in the yard shooting, practicing maybe 50 meters, for example, I'll take my rangefinder and I'll range like the yellow of the 50-meter target, and then I'll range the black foam of the bale and get
two
like
different readings.
Yeah, two different readings. So I've kind of like I've based my sight tapes off of what my rangefinder says off of the black bale, but having a rangefinder where you don't have to worry about that would be big.
Yes, it's amazing. And that's another thing. So you've based your rangefinder off that reading and you know how to work it. A lot of people don't realize that different rangefinders, both very good quality rangefinders, will range targets a little differently, and you need to go off your rangefinder always. I've seen shot with so many people in the past that they say, oh, you have a nicer rangefinder than me? I'm going to go off what yours says, not what mine says. I'm like, don't do that. Go off what yours says. That's what your sight tape's based off of.
Yeah. For the most part, rangefinders are consistent, even if they're off a little bit from the actual number. But yeah, that's big. The other thing that I do with my rangefinder, and I might have to make a video about this someday, is when I'm ranging my targets, like I see so many people just step up to the stake and like click it real fast and step off and go set their sight. Like I tend, especially since my rangefinder does the tenth of the yard, I'll step up there and get my feet where they're going to be when I'm shooting. So I'll be, perpendicular to the target, and then I'll like turn my body the same amount every time. That way I've got the rangefinder the exact same distance, because especially if you've got one that's got a tenth of a yard, you move your feet that much and your rangefinder can pick it up. So
I do the same thing. I go up to the stake. I look at the ground, find my good footing. I stand exactly where I'm going to stand when I shoot, perpendicular to target, turn my body and click it. I don't just willy-nilly walk up to the stake, click it once, and then come back.
Yeah, that's big. I think that's something that a lot of people can improve upon. But yeah.
It's the details. It's all in the details with everything ASA, especially. Those little tiny things can be big swings, especially when you're looking at 8s and 12s. That's a, quarter inch, 1/8 inch difference. That's a 4-point swing. That could change the outcome of a tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I was looking at some scores from the Classic last week, and especially the pro classes are super tight.
Yes.
And then once you get into the shoot down, like, you can see first place go down to fifth and vice versa. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen in a short amount of time.
There was a lot of that in my shoot down at the Classic. I came into the shoot down in third and worked my way up. By some things happened with the two people in front of me, and by our fourth arrow, I was sitting in first. I had no idea. They I didn't realize it until Josh Grind came over with the announcement and said, "And your leader, Rendyn Brooks." And I'm like, what? Since when? But those little things make so much of a difference. And shoot downs and high pressure situations, and even just being at a tournament in general, amplify all those little mistakes. And there's so much strategy in a shoot down. I mean, I've been in a lot of shoot downs, probably maybe 8 or 9 now, 8 or 9 shoot downs now. Um, I think eight's the right number. Yeah, 8 or 9 shoot downs now, and at all of them, I've been kind of gradually taking notes on, not really notes, but observing all my competitors. I know what most people in a shoot down, I know what they're gonna do. I can see somebody walking into a shoot down. I can look at where they are in where they are in the lineup and say, I think you're gonna go for a 12 on this one. You're risky. You might go for a 14. Those kind of things. But all the strategy and the behind the scenes stuff, people don't see a lot of. And then they'll ask me like, how did the order change so much in a shoot down? It's never over till it's over. Anything and everything can change in those 5 arrows.
Yeah, absolutely. So, bringing that over to bow hunter games, I think that strategy is going to be big because, first of all, nobody really knows what the other person's going to be doing because they haven't been able to watch those shoot downs and see what they're used to doing. So, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how many people are gunning for 12s at 60, 70 yards and how
Yes.
many people are shooting center 10.
My guess, and from talking to other people and from my strategy, looking at the tournament going into it, there's no precedent set for this tournament. So usually in any type of archery, whether that's indoors at Vegas, the ASA range, scores gradually increase because there's a precedent set. And you look at that as an archer and say, so and so has done this, however many people have done this in the past. I can do that. I can do better than that. And that's the effort that drives you and pushes you to put in more effort and want to be better. We don't have anything to look back on for bow hunter games. We don't know how all these target archers and pros are going to be with a bow hunter setup. So I'm guessing that on day one at least, pretty much everybody's going to be playing it a little bit more conservative. We're going to kind of feel it out, see how everybody else is shooting, especially the first few targets. If they have a scoreboard, a live scoreboard on the range, like they do at ASAs. So if anybody's followed Competition Archery Media is the one who posted on Facebook the whiteboard. They updated every 5 targets at the ASA range. So, and that's on our range. We see that. We see them updating at real time. So we know throughout the day where we're standing compared to everybody else. We don't just shoot our arrows and then find out at the end. So if they have something like that at bow hunter games, that's going to drive competition up. That's going to make people play a little bit more aggressive. But if they don't, I could absolutely see most people in the crowd playing it a little bit more conservative and maybe 1 or 2 standout scores. And then day 2, everybody kind of jumping up to follow that lead saying, oh, we can do this. They did this, so I can do it, and pushing themselves a little further on that. But part of my strategy going in, and what I think a lot of the women's strategy will be, is the idea of minimizing mistakes and keeping consistency, keeping it in a flow, not having any big mistakes, taking opportunities where you can get them, taking advantage of opportunities, but not putting yourself in a position where you have to chase back and try and fight for more points.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's going to be really exciting to see that play out. But one big thing that comes to mind when we're talking about those 80-yard shots aiming at a 12 ring that's not very big is I know my pin will cover up the 12 ring like all the way. I'm used to shooting, and I go pretty light on my magnification. I'm around 4 power, but even 4 power is a lot more than no magnification.
It is.
That's gonna be really interesting. How have you seen no magnification versus what you're used to with your target bow? How does that affect your shooting at 40, 50 yards?
For about 40 or 50 yards, for my eyes, I'm shooting a 10 thousandths fiber. No clear. Not running a clarifier or anything. I can see pin very clearly, not blurry at all. See target very clearly. I can pick up good definition on the targets. I don't have many trees around my house. I'm usually shooting targets out in an open field. So they're in the sun, they're open, they're easier to aim at. But I can pick up really good definition on all the targets out to about 55 or 60 yards. Past that, it starts to get really dim, really hard to see. Not dim, real blurry, real hard to see. At about 50 yards, no magnification, 10 thousandths fiber, I'd say it takes up the 12 ring plus a little more, or center 10 plus a little more. Maybe not half the 10 ring. Maybe you could say like half the radius of the 10 ring. That's probably appropriate. About half the radius of the radius of the 10 ring, not, yeah, about radius of the 10 ring.
Yeah.
At 70, 80, that's when it gets rough. I was shooting like 75 yards yesterday, and I talked to my dad. He came out there, and I was shooting at the Howling Wolf target. It's a big target, if anybody knows that one. And I swear that Howling Wolf looked like the same size as a Vegas 10. The entire animal.
Yeah.
Felt like it was the same size as a Vegas 10. But with no magnification, your pin looks a whole lot steadier. Magnification amplifies movement looking at the target. So it's kind of a little bit of a subconscious trick to your brain. Yes, you can't see the target as well, and you're covering up what you're aiming at, but you get the added bonus of, oh, my shots feel really steady, and just that good little confidence boost of, yeah, I can do this. Look at how steady my pin is. A little bit different than what you're used to seeing. And another factor of it for me is I'm a little different in how I aim at 3D targets versus a lot of people. So a lot of people shoot a fiber and they will put their fiber at the bottom of the 12 ring or kind of post on the target. I cover up whatever I'm aiming at. If I want my arrow in the dead middle of the 12, I am putting my pin in the dead middle of the 12. I want my arrow truly behind my pin, not like just above it. A lot of people operate that way. So I think that's helping me a lot with shooting with no magnification. Because if you're used to, oh, my arrow lands just above my pin, and then I take your magnification away, and you're like, I don't know where just above my pin is anymore, or my pin's way bigger than just above my pin now, it's really disorienting, and you don't know how to aim with that. So the fact that I cover up has helped me a lot with aiming with no magnification. It doesn't feel as harsh of a transition to my brain.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I like aiming, or I guess sighting into where my arrow hits right behind the pin as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been one that I can think of specific scenario. There's 3 arrows already in the target, and they're on like all sides of the 12, and all you got to do is like put your pin right in the middle of those 3 knocks, and then you're good. But yeah,
Yes.
so I like shooting that way. But one thing that I noticed shooting even a 10,000ths pin, and I've done most of my shooting on a Vegas face, which is not what I need to be doing. I need to be shooting the little electrical tape.
Get you some tape dots.
Yeah. One thing I noticed is that my pin like starburst, and so there'll be like a little starburst coming out of the top of the fiber and maybe the side. And I'm kind of trying to, I've been debating on, where the actual center of that fiber is. Because I've also noticed that the hole in my pin is not perfectly center.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've had that, and like I don't know if it's the way that I put the fiber in or how it is, but it doesn't quite look perfectly centered on the up pin. So I don't know if that's me. I'll have to work on that a little bit. But the way the starburst looks, I'm like aiming off of the points of the starburst. Do you get any of that? Does your pin look perfectly round, or?
My pin does look perfectly round, but I've done several things to combat that. I've seen the starbursting in the past. So one of the big things you can do is make sure that whenever you install fiber into your pin and you kind of, not fluff out, burn, whatever, make the end of that fiber a little bit bigger so it stays in the pin, doesn't fall back out the back. Make sure that that is burnt evenly and not cracking that fiber at all or like crystallizing the fiber. So what I do for that is I take my lighter, I just hold my lighter kind of on the side for a minute and heat up the metal on the side of the flame, turn the flame off, barely tap that hot metal to the fiber. That'll flare it out just enough that it won't seep back down or slide back down through the pin. The other thing that helps a lot, and this is going to sound like an ad, I promise it's not, is a clear fiber with colored light through it. So I shoot a Zebros sight light, and the best thing about that light is the clear fiber and the ability to change colors on the light. And you also have to figure out what color works best for your eyes. So everybody's eyes are different. Color's going to look different to everybody. So for my eyes, I love a green fiber on a 3D target. Not many people like that. A lot of people say the green starbursts a lot more. Most people, I think, say that blue doesn't starburst very much, or red. But for me, green looks the best on 3D targets. So troubleshooting, making sure that the fiber isn't flared out too much, making sure that your light's not too bright, and a clear fiber with colored light on it. Oh, I didn't explain. Because a clear fiber doesn't really pick up any ambient light. So no matter what lighting conditions you're in, if you're controlling that with your light and your fiber's not picking up any outside light, it's always going to look the same and it's never going to get way too bright for your eyes because you can control that with the light.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I think I've got a clear fiber in with a blue light, which you talk about the Zebros, the color changing. That's something I definitely need to experiment. I've heard people say a lot of good things about that. My light, I think all I can do is adjust the brightness, and I have a blue light in it right now.
Blue bulb.
Yeah, blue bulb. So it's blue with a clear fiber, and it's not as bad as some others that I've tried. And actually, what I'm doing with my fiber, and I'm not sure if you've heard of this, I actually learned from Colton Green in a previous podcast that I did. He doesn't actually burn the bulb on the end of his fibers.
Really?
Yeah, so basically what you do is you slide it through the back of the pin, and then you've got to put a little bit of like fletching glue or something on the post to keep it from sliding out the back.
Just glue it in place.
Yeah, and what that does is he doesn't push it all the way through the front. So the fiber is still kind of recessed back in that tube a little bit. And
Okay.
he said that reduces starburst a little bit. And I've seen a little bit of improvement by trying that out.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've tried that. And then as far as actually melting it, I think I'm going to try that again just so I can compare them side by side and see for myself what really makes a difference with my lighting setup. But the biggest thing that kind of concerns me is when I'm going into different lighting situations, whether it's a target in the dark hole or out in the daylight, is that the starburst on my pin, if I can't get rid of it, is going to be different when I'm going from brighter conditions to darker conditions, and not because the pin itself is brighter, because I've got it totally controlled with my light, but just the way the light is entering my peep and the eyes and stuff like that. So that's going to be something I'm going to have to learn a little bit.
Yeah. And honestly, with switching between different lighting conditions or different venues that have different lighting conditions, best thing is practice. And looking at more 3D targets, it took me 2 or 3 years of shooting on the infamous power line in London to figure out how to aim at those dark silhouetted targets. And it took me a lot of practice and some specific training. I'd get up first thing in the morning, stick a target right between me and the sun and stare at it and figure out how to shoot those silhouettes. But for most people, and for me especially, once it clicks, it clicks. But looking at targets and having the ability to practice a lot is a true advantage. It is in 3D competitions. It's so different from any other kind of aiming. There's a lot, you could call it strategy to the aiming, figuring out how to aim off of things. Or I can see point A, point B in the leg. Let me go 6 inches straight up from the leg, a third towards point B, two-thirds towards point A. All those little things of being able to kind of map that out in your head for when you can't see something. And even getting used to looking around that little bit more flared out, little bit starbursted fiber, or just knowing this is what my fiber looks like when it's dark. This is what my fiber looks like when there's sun on me and the target's dark, when there's shade on me and the target's bright. Having experience in all those different conditions and just kind of that instinctual of knowing what things will look like and your subconscious not panicking about it.
Yeah, practice is big, and I don't have a ton of 3D targets to practice on, and the nearest 3D range to me is probably 20 minutes, so I don't practice a whole lot on 3D targets. But when I get to an ASA, I think the only one I went to this year was London. I remember going down, I shot the elite shoot. First I actually I showed up, and I can't remember if I shot the practice range or I shot my first scoring round, but I realized it was way too dark. And I had heard at Vegas that Clear Targets has the color filters, and I think you had made a video about this.
I love my yellow lens.
Yes, I put the color filter in, and everybody was calling me crazy, but it works. Like I went down and I went to a practice range and shot it, and it was like dynamite. I think it was the elite bonus shoot, and I only missed like 112 on that whole range after putting that yellow in, and I'm like, wow, this is money. And then I learned about he's got a bunch of other filters that you can use on like Vegas faces and stuff like that. So I have to experiment this winter. But yeah, as far as the yellow goes, that's a big one. Which I'm gonna assume that that's not allowed at Bowhunter games.
I would have to reread the rules. Um, I think the difference in that would be if the rules state no magnification or no lens. Because in a lot of places where you're going to be shooting a bow hunter setup or a not a open setup, you can shoot like a no magnifications glass with a sticker dot on it. That's allowed in USA Archery, bow hunter, that kind of thing. Um, I'd have to reread the rules and confirm. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's something I have to look into. I know. I guess all that stuff's on the Bowhunter Games website, so I can
Yes.
look that up pretty easy. But yeah, so I think it's going to be a good one. Do you know how many targets it is? Bowhunter Games?
I believe it's a 30, I think it's 30 targets each day. It's either
30
30 or
targets
20
each day.
each day. I don't remember. But I think
Okay.
it's 30 because I want it to be a little bit more than a pro-am.
Mm-hmm.
Max 80 yards. Now you got me thinking about it. I really hope the yellow lenses are allowed. I've got to look that
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. So we'll have to play with that. So 30 targets or 25, whatever it is, that'll definitely be more than that. So I guess staying on your game is going to be key. Do we know what the weather's going to be like down there? I assume somewhat
Windy
warm.
and rainy.
Really? Okay.
That was
Yeah.
what it looked like last I saw. But on the ASA range, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. I approached the weather and the difficulties in that with the mindset of we're all going through the same thing. We're all dealing with the same conditions. This is now a competition of, and I'm quoting one of my other archery friends of who can be the least who can be the most unbothered and just shoot through it, not give it a second thought. That kind of this is just gonna roll off my back, not gonna dwell on the difficulties of it is definitely a deciding factor when elements are at play, or even just the idea of, wow, this is an 80-yard shot with a bow hunter setup. That's terrifying. Walk into it with the mindset of, we're all doing the same thing. Let's see who can do it the best. And roll on with that. Mindset and attitude is probably the most important part of archery. It
Yeah.
is a mental sport for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And especially when you're shooting, in a tournament like Bowhunter Games where you don't have a precedent. Like, I think that just going out there and saying, this is going to be a tough shoot, but I think that because it's windy or because it's rainy, I'm going to do better than the next shooter. I
Yeah.
think that's gonna be key. I know when I go to like this summer, I shot some of the USAT stuff, like going there, and one of them it was just rainy, and I'm like, okay, the rain's gonna be bad, but I think that I can handle it better than everybody else, and that helped me get me through it. So yeah, I
Yep.
think I think mindset is key when it comes to stuff like that.
It is. I don't remember. It was a couple years ago that I was listening to a podcast that Paige Pierce was in, and she had talked about this mindset of she can walk down the line at a tournament and say, "You're gonna beat yourself today. I'm gonna beat you because your attitude is off." And she can walk down the line. She knows who's gonna have a good day, who's not, just based off your attitude and how you're presenting itself. It's such a real thing. Um, and at Bowhunter Games, if you can walk into that tournament with a lot of confidence, I think you've got a really good shot at doing well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, as far as classes go, I know they've got a fun class, and then is it a men and women's money class? Like there's two. I don't know exactly how it works.
Yes, so
Um,
there's just two classes, men's class, or technically the open class. Women are allowed to register in that, and then a women's class. And then anybody can sign up for a lot lower rate to just shoot and have fun, be around for the festivities. There will be multiple ranges set up for anybody to go shoot, long ranges, short ranges, any skill level. And I believe that after the money classes get off the ranges, those ones will open up for people to come shoot.
Okay, that's good to know. So, how many? If there's only two classes, is everybody in one class going to be able to fit onto one range, or are they going to have multiple ranges?
I
That's
think that because it's 30 target ranges, we should be able to fit. We'll likely have the men on one range, women on another. The men's may overflow onto the women's range, and it probably will. But I think if we have 30 targets, all groups of five, probably groups of 4 or 5, probably groups of 5. We're not going to have many groups of 4 if it's as packed and high registration as I think it's going to be. Everybody will shoot the same ranges. I think that they'll be able to put all the men on one range, all the women on one range. And then we'll just alternate days the same way we do at the pro-ams.
yeah, yeah. That'll be interesting to see how it all rolls out. I'm excited to see. I know I've been to some tack shoots, and I assume this is going to be a lot more similar crowd to kind of who goes to tack shoots. Also going to be here, as well as mixing in a lot of the people that you see at ASAs. So I think it's going to be a different crowd. I don't know how many like vendors are going to be there. I'm going to assume that it's going to be comparable to an ASA or even more.
There are going to
But
be more vendors than a typical ASA, I believe, from listening to podcasts and all the other stuff they put out about it. And I've talked to several people that I know will have a booth there. So I think that there will be a lot of people there. And I am really excited about the possibility of the typical TAC crowd coming to an ASA. I love the idea of kind of blending those two styles of tournament together, the very focused competition and the little bit more we're going to have fun, and archery is what we enjoy. I think that I hope everybody has the mentality that they enjoy archery. But for a lot of people who have really only experienced the heavy competition side, I think this is going to be a lot of fun for them. And just another way of we love archery. We love the people who are in archery. I always call it my archery family. And time with those people, time behind the bow. I'm excited about this tournament.
yeah, yeah, I think it's going to be good, and especially since there's no precedent. So, like, if you go there and shoot a score that, it might be really good, it might be a bad score, but you really don't know. It's like, well, I shot a score, so,
No
that's
pressure and expectations. Just
yes,
gonna roll in and
exactly,
take it as it comes. I love that.
exactly. Yeah, so I think it's gonna be a fun shoot. Let's see, what's the dates on it? August 20 something.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it starts August 19th to the 22nd.
19th, and then it's is it a you said 2 days, 30 targets a day, something like that, and then
Yes,
is there a shoot down?
there is a shoot down. So what we've heard about the shoot down in the format, so the pros will shoot Thursday morning, Friday morning, and then the shoot down will be Saturday afternoon, evening. What we've heard about the shoot down so far is that it's going to be very different from the typical ASA shoot down where we're all just right next to each other shooting those 5 targets. The top 10 archers in each category will make the shoot down. So it'll be a little bit more of a show, and it will be more set up like a course. You're going to be walking around shooting, not just targets right next to each other. And the way supposedly that they're going to film it is supposed to be a lot more engaging for the audience and a better way to get archery out to a larger crowd. So there's a lot of unknowns going into the shoot down, but what we've been told so far is that it is going to be a big show. It is absolutely going to be a spectacle.
Yeah, that's really good. I think since it's unknown, I guess the best strategy for that would be to just try to hit middle once you get there. But
Yes. And I don't think there's any way to predict shoot down strategy as of now. I think that's going to be decided after both the qualification days and potentially even after the first couple shoot down arrows. I am sure that it'll be like an ASA shoot down where we know the standings after each arrow. We know where everybody else is sitting, so you'll be able to make those real-time decisions, which is the hard part of an ASA shoot down is the real-time strategy decisions. So like a Vegas shoot off. I know that if you're in a Vegas shoot off, you need to hit the middle every time. You know, if you're in an ASA shoot off, well, I'm in the lead. Do I go for a 14 because I think she's going to go for a 14? Do I go for a 12 or I think I might hit an 8 on this target if I go for a 12? I'm just going to go center 10. Dang it, she hit a 14 and passed me. Now I'm no longer in the lead. those kind of game time decisions are going to be really big in this shoot off, especially with the potential of big mistakes from a bow hunter setup. It is so easy to make a little bit of a weak shot and weigh out 8, potentially 5 with a bow hunter setup on a longer target. I think we're going to see some of that in the shoot down. I really do. With the general pressure of a shoot down and with how much of a show they think they're going to be making it, they say they're going to be making it, the more of a spectacle in a show you make it, the more pressure there's going to be, more potential for mistakes. With bow hunter setup, those mistakes are going to be exacerbated even more. The shoot down's going to be interesting.
Yes, yes, it will. I think there'll be there might be some big mistakes in the shoot down, but there also going to be some big money, is what I hear.
There will. There is going to be big money. I believe it is 60,000 for first for the men's, 40 for the women's. So
Yeah,
they're
yeah, that's
I hope they put some pressure on it. With that much on the line, we need some pressure.
yeah, I'd say. And is it? Do you know if they pay out at all? Like, does Podium get some money too, or is it just the winner?
They do, yes. I know Podium gets money. I don't know how far down they'll pay. I would guess that will depend on how many people are registered for each class and will go on a percentage.
Yeah, yeah, nice. So I'm going to be preparing for this over the next couple weeks or however long we have left, maybe a little bit less than that even. And I think it's going to be, really interesting. The biggest thing for me is in talking to a friend of mine, Travis. He shoots like the bow hunter class at Lancaster, and he knows how to get a bow hunter bow to shoot really good. So I was asking him the other day, what do I need to do to get this bow to shoot good? And he was talking about, putting up your Vegas face, because personally, I know what I like my pin to look like when I'm shooting a Vegas face. So I can shoot 30 arrows at that and say, okay, I think my pin was moving just a little bit too much there, so I'm going to tweak it and do this or that. What do you recommend for me, who's trying to get a bow to hold as close to my target bow as possible, by doing tiller tune and moving my knocking point and doing all the stuff, trying to get it to be roughly the same? What's a process that you would recommend for me?
So this will be surprising. I do not do much with a lot of extra forms of tuning. I paper tune my bow. I make sure my rest timing's really good, and a general inspection of things looking in line, a good alignment. I don't tiller tune. I've never done a whole lot with D-loop height. I prefer a little bit lower D-loop. I feel like that aims a little better for me. But for the most part, I think the biggest thing with a bow hunter setup is just going to be time behind it and getting your brain comfortable to those differences and your stabilizer and weight setups. So taking the time to make those tiny little minute adjustments on your back bar, especially, getting that where you want it, getting the stability there, and just getting your mind comfortable with what your sight picture looks like so you're not panicking. It doesn't feel like a new thing by the time you get to bow hunter games. So like some of my preparation objectives is as many arrows as I can get in. So over the next week and a half, I will be shooting a lot of arrows. As many arrows I can get at long distance, at 3D targets, at my little tape dots, 70, 80 yards long distance, as far away as I can get them. And as well as, really just knowing that it's not, understanding and being okay with that it's not going to look like my target bow does, but I have confidence in it anyway. Building confidence in that bow is one of the biggest things in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it. So you say you're going to shoot a lot of arrows. Roughly, how many is that per day?
I would say, like, typically, most of my practices fall between the range of 80 to 100 arrows, maybe a little less than that. If I'm shooting 3D, it takes forever to, shoot just a few 3D targets. I will probably be above that. I will be probably practicing morning and evening for the next few weeks, so I'll probably be over 100 arrows every day until bow hunter games. But I'm also a big quality over quantity person, so I never want to just go fling arrows, just shoot with no objective. I always go into a practice with, this is the specific thing I'm working on. This is what I want to accomplish by the end of the day. And every shot, I am giving all my effort 100%. So that's another thing that I've been trained to do is I have a shot process and I'm sticking to it. If I'm at practice and I'm not having a bad day, but if I'm struggling mentally or the shots just don't feel good, I'm going to put it up for a while and come back later. There's no point in practicing something and like building bad habits. So quality over quantity for me. I'm not going to push myself like, oh, if I'm just exhausted, don't feel good, whatever, not going to push myself to keep shooting more arrows. But quality practice and as much quality practice as I can get in, that's a big thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I think that's going to be really good. So, well, good luck to you at Bowhunter Games. I'm sure we'll see you there. Anybody
you.
listening, if you want to try and beat Rendyn, you might have to shoot 200 really good shots in a day. And I don't know if that's going to happen. But, yeah, so I appreciate this conversation. I learned a lot. I think that this Bowhunter Games thing is going to be something.
I'm excited about it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming on. We'll see you on the next episode, Rendyn.
Yes, sir.